Friday webinars. I am your host, Shelly Sanchez-Terrell, and we are here every Friday thanks to AmericanTESOL.com. American TESOL has certifications face-to-face and also online. In fact, we had tons of students just finish these last 2 or 3 weeks, the online course. We have different certifications for teaching advanced TESOL, teaching English with technology, also teaching young learners and teaching business English as well. So we are excited to talk about one of the newest types of learning that has come out of this wonderful digital world, because we often share ways that you can integrate tech to improve all four skills: reading, writing, listening, and speaking. So I want to talk to you about those today, and those are citizen science projects. Unfortunately, because it's called citizen science, many teachers don't look at it because they think that it only has to do with science. But that's actually not the case. Citizen science, what that means is an Oxford English Dictionary, Oxford in general, is really great about capturing all the new terms and all the new lingo that's coming out because of our use of the internet. And there are many different roles we get to play because of the internet. The internet connects all of us all around the world. In fact, we have people from all over the world today in this webinar, and we're all connected because of technology and the internet. So, the same way our students are too, and it allows us to do different things we couldn't do before. It also gives us a big, massive audience. So now our students, for example, can be what's called a citizen reporter. And what a citizen journalist or reporter does, and these are official terms. These are terms in the Oxford English Dictionary. These are terms that have come about because of our use of the internet. So if you can think of what a citizen journalist might be, what, can anyone type in and think? Or a citizen reporter? You probably have guessed. It probably has to do with the news, which it does. And as we've heard, there's been millions of fake news spread. And one of the reasons why is it's a person. What it means is anyone is now able to um, report the news online. So there's all these citizen terms, but they're related to our roles online. Um, they're not related to, and what, how we can be better citizens, how we can do this ethically, and that's why they put the citizen in front of it. So, for example, a citizen archivist is someone who goes online and helps translate resources, helps helps museums with their archives, and it's how to do that more ethically. So that's why they call it a citizen. It's like digital science. Digital citizenship. So now they keep making these terms, and so a citizen science tist or citizen science means any one of us has the ability now to conduct research like a scientist. And we can help scientists. There's tons of ways we can help them online. And the way we help them actually helps improve their research and find real answers to things that they need answers to in the world. So, for example, astronomers have used, a lot of times you will see this in astronomy, where there have been people who look at the stars in different astronomy projects around the world, or astronomy groups. You may belong to one where you look at the stars in a telescope and then you just write down your observations, or you look at the moon or planets, and then you can actually type this in on a database online for free. All of this is for free, by the way. And then scientists they take all that research because they can't be at your location. And then they can they've been able to find distant stars, planets, just so many things. So citizen science is really, really important to advancing research. It's helped with finding cures for cancer. It's helped with language development. It's helped with um, psychologists trying to understand human behavior. It's helped make artificial intelligent bots much smarter. It's helped with so much indeed. So I want to introduce you to some projects where you can get your learners to learn English. They can learn reading, writing, listening, and speaking, and they can also advance scientific research. So we're going to take a look at that. If you are not familiar with citizen science, that's okay. It's actually kind of gotten really popular and big this year. I write about it in my new book, Hacking Digital Learning, which hopefully will come out in August or September. But what we do, but if you look at the 2016 TED Prize winner, the most recent prize winner, and we probably have all heard of the TED Talks, right? That have been really inspiring. Well, those TED Talks, they choose one each year, which they give $1 million to be able to advance their research or their projects. And so the one this year was Sarah Parkek. And Sarah Parkek talks about her citizen science project. So TED actually funded a citizen science project this year. You can actually join this. It's really exciting. You go to the site globalexplorer.org, so you can have students participate already. Students can participate from young, and you can participate as well. Anyone can. And you're actually going to help archaeologists with this particular one that the TED has funded. So with Global Explorer, you can have students even as young as 9 all the way to much older. Like I said, even we can join. And what you do is they have satellite imagery. They work with a company of different types of archaeological sites around the world, like pyramids all over the world, probably in your country as well. And what you do is they give you this kit. It's called a, oh, where am I? Okay, wrong one. They give you a toolkit. And when you, they'll go ahead and you don't even have to register. You can if you want. It's in different languages, so in case they need a little help, but it walks you through how to look at the maps. So you look at maps, and then you identify what you see that's different. And they show you how to do that and how to mark it. And when you do this, then you're able to let them know that somebody is looting a historic site, and then they're able to go and make sure that that doesn't happen. So there's a lot of great things that you can do with citizen science. But when you're doing this, you're learning a lot of different skills. You're learning how to read. You're learning how to read maps. You're learning how to also about historic sites in different countries. So there's a lot of different skills that you're adapting right with this. Citizen science projects are really great for language learners because they break down a lot of complicated, and learners in general, CALPS is something that a lot of our learners have problems with. CALPS is, okay, so there's academic English, and then there's English that's social English, which a lot of our students can pick up. They're able to, sometimes you'll notice that your students might know how to speak really well, and then they can't write that well or something. But that's because they know social English. They know how to say common terms. They've been around that. That's probably the English that they're used to. When they're actually doing English that has academic language, or when they're asked to do something that's more with writing, academic papers and things like that, they struggle with that, and that's CALPS. And so in order to be able to help them, citizen science really, really does help them with that. It walks them through the steps. It actually gets them to do something that they can see really makes a difference in the world. And so that's really, really important for them as well. So If you're not familiar with BICS and CALPS, I'm going to go ahead and give you a link to that. It's a cognitive academic language proficiency, but I'm going to go ahead and give you a link so that way you know what that is. And BICS is a basic interpersonal communication skills. And that might be more of a, that it's a linguistics term. It's something I learned in my master's, but and so that link right there will talk about BICS versus CALPS. And I'm glad you asked, because that's something that we learn, but it might be an American term. And it really also helps the citizen science with CLIL, which is content language integrated learning. So many of you might be familiar with that. And EAP is English for academic purposes. So right now I teach a lot of, I teach EAP while I teach university students. So that's why as well. Let me go ahead and get you on American TESOL, we actually have webinars that have to do with CLIL. We've gone through the whole CLIL, just in case you're not familiar with CLIL. So I'll go ahead and give you the links to that, the webinars and the resources. And then vocabulary. A lot of our students, it's hard for them to remember vocabulary, know how to use different types of vocabulary, especially vocabulary that's academic. Regular vocabulary, they tend to be able to practice, but not so much academic. But citizen science projects, they can even do on their own. So it's really, really a great way for them to be able to do meaningful tasks outside the classroom. A lot of teachers, don't like to give homework, but language learners really do need that practice outside of the classroom. And if you're going to be able to inspire that, then we can give them projects that are really meaningful and interesting that they see when it's tied to making research, advancing research and knowledge, and that they get to be part of that. That makes it really meaningful for them. So that's one way to really encourage them and motivate them to be able to participate and learn. You can have a citizen science project outdoors or indoors. So it's not always outdoors. There's a lot that you do with the computer that you can help students. They can go on the computer and they can do data entry. They can do translations. There's just so much they can do. So I'm going to present you some projects so you can see what exactly is involved. But before I do that, I want you to know the process. The process is, one, you get a project overview. So you can get a quick description of what the project is. They're pretty short descriptions, very simple instructions. So that way it makes it easy for language learners and people all over the world to be able to understand. Sometimes they even have the instructions in the language, the language of the native tongue. They have it in different types of, so that way, even though they do the task in English, they'll get the instructions in different languages. So that's really good. The registration, there's sometimes the registration, sometimes you don't even have to register at all, or you can register as an anonymous person. It's free. All of these are free. So Peggy, that's a great question. So Peggy asks, are you talking about a specific site or just a process for any citizen science project? Most citizen science projects go through this. Not all of them, but the two sites where you find the most, because I'm going to show you two sites where you can take a look and you can search for one of these. And these are the ones, like hundreds and thousands of them, that go through this basic process. So that was a very good question. Like I said, you don't have to register for all of them. Some of them you do. The Global Explorer that I just showed you, you don't have to register for that one. You have an option where you can sign in as a guest. You get a toolkit and a tutorial. So a toolkit, tutorial gives you a walkthrough through the instructions, how to submit the data, what they need you to do. So for some, you can play an online game, and then it walks you through the steps and how it reads your brain or your responses. Some ask you to read passages and identify words. Some ask you to translate. Some ask you to read maps and document, what you've seen. So all of that are all of those can be new skills. And since you want to be able, they want you to submit any of this, you're volunteering, you're submitting your time, and they want to be able to use this for research. So they walk you through the process so that way they can make sure that you do it correctly so they can use the what you've done for their research. And in science, that, a research project, that's very, very important. A toolkit is where they give you the tools to be able to do this. So for example, the global explorers, they give you ways to mark up a map. That's one of the tools you'll need. In other places, they give you vocabulary words. Sometimes they give you um, a code, so that way you know how to you know what you're looking for. That's a lot of times with symbols and stuff. They give you examples. So the toolkit is giving you the tools to be able to complete the process. Sometimes if you're doing work outside, then they give you the opportunity to also get toolkits if you don't have them yourself for collecting data. Like for example, if you're doing if you need a cup to be able to take measurements or things like that, and those you will have to pay for, but you don't have to do projects like that. Or a lot of times they just will offer if you don't have your own, like a telescope or something like that. And then there's a data submission process. After you complete whatever it is they ask you to do, then you can go ahead and submit that. Usually it's just online, filling out a form. And then they update you. They let you know some of these projects take 20 years. They take years. So even though you participate, it doesn't mean that you're going to know the answers right away. So instead, they understand that. What they want to do is that they want to be able to make sure that you're motivated. And so what they'll do is they'll go ahead and they'll take your they'll let you know what the project is doing. So one way you can participate and have your learners participate is a very important historical event that will not happen again for a very long time. This is once in one of those once in a lifetime kind of things. But August the 21st, you will see the total solar eclipse. I think it will actually happen again when students are 80 or something. I mean, but the total solar eclipse, it's a very historical event all over the world. August the 21st. I know it's about noon. It basically is more noticeable in the northern in North Americas or in the Americas, but it starts around 12 noon ET, like New York Standard Time, I think. But it keeps on going. And so you can actually help scientists with the total solar eclipse. One of the big projects you can't contribute to, but that students all over the world have contributed to help with this. And you have students from the ages of 11 all the way to universities are helping. This is a citizen science projects, and they're helping NASA be able to document the solar eclipse from where they're at. So what they're doing is they're sending in these balloons, and these balloons act as satellites, and they take pictures. They'll be taking pictures and video of the solar eclipse. So that is one way that already schools and universities are contributing to science, and this is a NASA eclipse ballooning project. And for us, it's really great because what we can do is if you go to streameclipse.live, you get to watch all of their work in action. If you don't want to, if you don't want to go outside like me and risk, your eyes or anything, or with me, I don't want to risk Savannah's eyes with the solar eclipse. So we're going to go ahead and watch it live. And these are actually students from all over the world who are giving you this ability to watch it live. So that's really one way that citizen science is helping us now. You can join a solar eclipse citizen science project. There's many of them actually. There's actually like 6 of them, I think. I'm going to show you 2 that I think are easy to do, that your students could be able to do as well. So one of them is the Eclipse Mega Dot Movie. And what this is doing is they're actually just gathering images of the total solar eclipse. And your students and even you can contribute to this. You just add pictures wherever you're at. They walk you through the process, how to take a picture, how to ahead of time mark on a map where you're located, so that way you can they can add that to their movie. They know the location and stuff. They actually have some other resources related to the solar eclipse. If you would like to teach the solar eclipse, one of their great resources is a simulator that is really great for language learners to learn about the solar eclipse, and it's a visual, it's an animated visual with characters. There's also eclipsesoundscapes.org, so you don't even have to participate with pictures. You can participate with pictures, but so the Eclipse Soundscapes actually helps those that are deaf or who are visually impaired, also experience the solar eclipse. So you're not, a lot of people around the world aren't going to be able to see the solar eclipse because they don't have any sight. So what you do instead is that you record sounds around you, the changing sounds of the environment, so that way they can make this interactive rumble map, is what they call. And you actually submit that into this app. It's a free app to download, and that will be able to create this sound, what the solar eclipse sounds like, all around the world in nature, and things like that. So it's really, really an incredible way for people that cannot see the solar eclipse to be able to experience it through sound. And you can contribute to that. You just record the sounds in your environment. And then the final one that I want to introduce you to for your students and you that you can do, and then I'll introduce you to some specifically not related to the eclipse, but related to just language learning in general. But one of them is this from California Academy of Science. And what you can do is this one is also asked you to download a free app. It's called iNaturalist, and it's on the iOS, and then it's also for Android. And what you do, this app is really great because it's a way that a lot of science projects, the citizen science projects, collect data. On this particular one, you choose the one for life response. That's the one that will help with the solar eclipse. You mark on a map your site where you are, and then what you're going to do is document how the animals and plants around you, you're going to observe them before and after the solar eclipse and during. And you're going to mark what changes, what happens. You can even do like your pets. How does your cat or dog, how do they act differently? Or even any of your plants. If you have any plants, you can take a picture of them. You can talk about what plant you have, and how, if you notice any significant differences when the solar eclipse occurs. And that really helps scientists all over the world to be able to tell whether or not, the impact on, and here's that app as well. So the app, you just simply take a picture, you mark locations on a map, and then you just simply describe what's happening. They're actually going to ask you to make 3 separate observations, and then you add them to the project life response. And here with this app, you can take pictures, you can take notes. So it's really great for learning in general. And then you help scientists all over the world be able to make some conclusions about how the solar eclipse affects animals, if it affects them more in one area, or even nature itself. The great thing is that, and Peggy mentioned something. She says the total eclipse only lasts 2 minutes. That's very true. And so when you are doing the citizen science projects, note that some of them only last 5 minutes. Actually, they only take 5 minutes of your time, or 10 minutes. If you include the tutorials and learning how to do it, then maybe 30 minutes or 20 minutes. So some of these citizen science projects you can do within a class period. It doesn't take a lot of time, or students can do on their own, and they're not going to be committed to. Some of them do take hours, but there's a lot that only take 5 to 10 to 15 minutes. And some, like I said, are games. They're filling out surveys. They're short reading passages. So there's a lot of different things they can do. So where do you find projects specifically related to what you teach? Let's say you teach, for example, business English. You can find some for business English. Let's say you teach writing academic papers. You can find something that talks about writing. Grammar. You can find some about grammar. You can find some about pronunciation. You can find it for anything. There's tons of them. So Zooniverse.org is one of them. You can sign in and register for them, or you can just look for projects. You can even create your own project if you are a scientist or a researcher and you work with the university. You can do that as well. Now, my favorite one is actually SciStarter.com. That's my particular one. You can search right now. You can enter a location and find one that's local, or you can just select a topic. To find the ones related to language learners, I typed in vocabulary, language, words, I mean, all kinds of things to be able to find these that I'll show you today. Like I said, they're free. So when you do, I'm going to go ahead and show you the ones related to language. And so what I did was, so here's one. This is called Over. And what they do is they're trying to find the semantics. You will help scientists discover the semantics of the preposition over. So this is actually looking at they're just studying the preposition over. You only contribute online. So this is what I mean by project overview. It's telling you what the goal is. It tells you very simply what the task is. You'll answer some simple questions online. And then it gives you a short description. The preposition over has long been studied by linguists since it's had some semantic features with a lot of problems for, and then it tells you what happens. And then it says, if you you can help scientists solve these problems, so that way they can help language speakers all over the world understand as well. They give you a link on where to join. This link leads to a Google form, a Google survey that your students just answer. And it even tells you the age group. It tells you that it's indoors, and it also tells you that it's for elementary school students. Students as young as 6 years old can join this project, all the way to adults. So you can have young language learners. It tells you also that it's only online. So if you go to SciStarter, it's going to give you all this information for any of the projects. One of the ones I like a lot, so I'm going to show you another one, is the Small World of Words. This one actually is a language map that looks like this circle right here. And what you do is you just spend 5 minutes. It's a game of word associations, and it only takes 5 minutes. And what they do is they say on average an adult knows about 40,000 words. And scientists are trying to study language and memory. So they are creating this mental dictionary. So when your students play this game for 5 minutes, then they're able to help add to this mental lexical dictionary. So you can do that. You just simply click, I want to participate. You don't have to register or anything. And then you contribute it to science. There's this one site called gameswithwords.org, and all the games or quizzes you take help scientists with their research about language, especially the English language. So this particular one is called Which English? This one helps them map the grammar of English around the world. We've heard of English as a lingua franca. So when your students play that, when they decide which English it is, then they're able to help scientists with that. The vocabulary quiz sees how many vocabulary words that you memorize in different ways. Listener quiz, you listen to different songs, and then you determine whether they're culturally independent or these songs are actually universal. There's tons of other projects for language learners as well. Lingscape is another one that I really love a lot. This one is an app. It's a free app on iOS and Android. You take, this one's really great. So what you do is all around you, students can take photos of signs and lettering in public spaces, and especially in English. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to see the English in signs when there's a translation. So they want to be able to, and so you just submit these pictures, but the students pay attention to the English in those signs. And then you help scientists document and analyze language use and multilingualism. So you uploaded, you say where the location was, you found that sign, and that's it. That's it. So you can see the other signs that people have taken as well. Another one from Games with Words, that site I showed you previously is Burb Corner. With Burb Corner is another game that they can play. They understand the rules of grammar and relationship to words and sentences and verbs as well. This is what it looks like. So I was telling you that some of them, these last for years. They want to gather research for 5 years, 10 years, as many years. So what they do is they do give you where you rank, and then they do give you different phases of the project. They'll give you maps that show you, okay, we're in phase 1 of the project, phase 2, phase 3, 4, and they give you an explanation of all that. So that way you understand how your your task did, how it helped these scientists. There's another one called the, this is another app. So a lot of these might require you to download the app. A lot of them don't. The ones that are related to language, as I showed you, some you can play online games, some do require apps. But they're free. They are free apps. Here's the Hungry Mind Lab. On this particular one, you actually will do it online as well. And what you do is you complete these online tasks, and then it'll ask you how you felt. And so what it's doing is saying, it's trying to see if your mood affects your brain power. If you learn better when you're happy, if you learn, or if emotion has nothing to do with the way you learn. So when you're doing this particular task, it'll ask you about your emotions, and then they'll be able to make judgments about that. This is a really great one, specifically related to museums. So there's different organizations. There's NASA, there's museums, there's dictionary sites and things like that where you can help contribute to science. A lot of museums, like the American Museum of Natural History, need people to help them be able to document and archive all of they have so much stuff that they get online. So this one, they have 30,000 images, and what your students will do is they'll simply tag them, and they'll create description. So they'll actually write a description about the image. So that's a really great language task. It really encourages writing, and it doesn't take a lot. You can do as many as you want. And these are actually documents within a museum, so they'll help others as well. Okay, there's a lot where you do transcription, where you just transcribe documents. One of them is, this is a really great one. This is where you discover writings from actual artists and explorers and inventors all over the world. They had these wonderful writers all over the world. And remember, they didn't have technology then like the internet, or sometimes they didn't even have computers. So instead, we just have their writing. That's it. We just have their letters, their notes. And so what your students do is they can even look for their favorite artists you're studying, writers you're studying. And what you do is you look at their personal notes, and then you type in what they wrote in that note. So that's the way you help with that, is that you actually just type out what these famous artists were thinking, but you also get to go into their thoughts and stuff like that. So that's really cool. That's one of my favorite projects. Another one is to help the Smithsonian the same way, is that there's a lot of newspapers and things like that, and they need you to help be able to transcribe their collections, be able to tag them to say, okay, this is from this time period. this has to do with Civil War or rights, and so you can help the Smithsonian, which is a very popular site. Notes from nature, what you do is that you take museum records related to plants, animals, and these are from scientists that actually did handwritten notes. This is when they had written labels and things like that, and then you just turn those into a digital copy. So you're taking their words and then just, making it their copy. Back in the old days, you had people document the weather. They were on ships, and they, in the 1800s, and they were writing down these important discoveries and weather observations while they were in these ships. They made these ship logs. And so your students get to go through these ship logs, and then they get to write down, they get to type in what the explorers were talking about the weather and describing it. And that could be really just just interesting. Students can pretend they're on their own ship journey. You can do a lot of other projects related to that, where students write stories after reading actual notes from the past from these ancient mariners, that they're able to invent their own stories after that about what life at sea might have been like. You can, so there are, like I was saying earlier, citizen archivists. They call that, instead of a citizen scientist, when you help museums, with their archives, you can call yourself a citizen archivist or a citizen historian. And so some of these, there's actually a toolkit for this as well, where you can go and you can tag different documents. And tags means, like I said before, where you say, okay, this is related to the civil rights, this is related to the 1800s, this is related to Europe and the Romantic period. So they need help tagging these different things. There are some citizen projects to enhance reading skills. One of this are the Mark II Cure. So this one is, they have scientific literature, and what they want you to do is they want you to be able to read these very short passages, and then you have to decide whether it's biomedical literature or not, or whether, and by marking these passages, and you'll find key pieces of information. They'll tell you what to look for, but you read a small scientific text, and then you identify the vocabulary and answer questions to be able to see if that's something that's related to their research. Ask Nature, what you do there is sort of the same kind of thing as well. You read small passages, and then you're able to also write out, you're able to translate that into better English as well. So those were some of the projects that you could find. I know we went a little over, but you can find many, many more by going to scistarter.com if you're doing a particular lesson on a particular topic, animals, if you do. And this way, when they do learn, they learn reading, writing skills in particular, and research skills.